So my mom literally used all her money just to throw her brother a luxury party and buy him a car. Meanwhile, we're basically starving to death. Oh, and get this, I wonder how she's going to think when I tell her that he's been stealing from us. My mom's just put me in the worst position imaginable. Before I start college, she promised to pay my tuition, but since I moved out, she's saying that I should pay it myself. I'm a sophomore in college and I'm already behind on my tuition. If I don't pay off my bills, I won't be able to finish my degree. Okay, for a bit of context, I lived with my parents for most of my life. When I was in high school, my father up and left me and my mom out of the blue. He went out to work one day and just never came back. We haven't seen or heard from him since, and I do remember that time his and mom's relationship was contentious. They always fought about the bills and chores and me, and my mom's an ER nurse, and my father, he just worked a regular 9-to-5 office job. They would fight over chores for not being done, and they fought over whose fault it was the chores weren't done, and they fought over who had to drop me off and pick me up from school. They fought over the long hours my mom would have to work at the hospital. It was a rough time growing up in such a dysfunctional household. It really impacted my grades too, and I barely passed all my classes. And I certainly did not do well enough for a college scholarship. After my dad, he left, they got pretty rough. My mom could not keep up with the bills and the mortgage, and I was 16 at the time and had to get a part-time job stocking shelves at a big-name retail box shop. But even that was not enough. This was when Mom starts complaining to family members about how hard things were. Some of them suggested she should let my uncle Steve come live with us, and he used to be in the military but got discharged after he lost his hearing in one ear. I wasn't sure what he was doing for a living then, but he had his own apartment and was not happy with how high the rent was going. So my mom pitched the idea to him, and he moved in with us right away. At first, everything was fine. He relieved some of the financial burden of me and my mom, and I still kept my job, but I only worked on the weekends. I actually got to save most of the money, and thank goodness I did, because I would have been out of luck by now. But guys, I'm getting ahead of myself. After I graduated high school, I wanted to go straight to college. My mom told me not to worry about tuition, that she would help me take care of it, and she said that she's been setting aside money to help me get to my first degree. So I did feel pretty secure. I kept working and saving money for stuff like books and supplies. However, some weird things started happening that made me leave. It started my second year. I would notice things in my room were going missing. Little things at first, a pair of headphones, a phone charger, basically things that are easily misplaced, and I did not think anything of it. I left a pair of headphones in the library before. No big deal, right? But then it started getting really, really weird. My shoes, they started going missing, along with my clothing. Then one day I came home and my laptop was gone, which by the way had all my schoolwork on it, and I just distinctly remembered leaving it at home on my bed, because I only had one class that day, so I looked all over the house, trying to find it, but I couldn't. I asked both my mom and uncle if they had seen it anywhere, and they both said no. So I got on the phone with one of my friends from college and asked if I could come by. See, my laptop had a tracker on it, and it's been connected to Wi-Fi. At any point after it went missing, I would be able to hunt it down. So I used my friend's laptop and found that it's been connected just a few minutes before. We contacted the police, and they went to the place that it was. They took a statement from the person who had it and said that it was not stolen. They bought it from someone. They even showed a few text messages exchanged with the person they bought it from, but the name who's saved is a bunch of emojis. However, the police did get a description of the thief, and it sounded suspiciously like my uncle. I went back home and waited for Mom to come back to confront him. I asked him flat out if he sold my laptop, and he denied it. I told him how I tracked it down and got the police involved, and that the person who had it said that he'd sold it to them. Again, he swore up and down it was not him. Well, my mom told me that I should stop demonizing him, that I was forgetful and probably left my laptop in the library and somebody took it. I realized I was not going to get anywhere with this, so I decided to plan my escape. I went to the hardware store and got a deadbolt for my bedroom door so I could lock everything up before I left. I could not have an incident like this happen again. I almost lost all of my schoolwork, including a bunch of essays that were worth a good chunk of my grades. On top of that, I'm pretty sure all those times I thought I was misplacing my things, he was stealing them and selling them. I finished out the rest of my second at my mom's place, while just actively looking for somewhere else to go. A few people on campus had apartments and were looking for roommates. I found somebody that I could vibe with, and she welcomed me to have her apartment spare room, and I'd pay her a flat rate every month to help her cover the rent and utilities. That summer, when I told my mom I was moving out, she got mad and said I was being selfish by leaving her and my uncle to pay all the bills by themselves. The mortgage, the utilities, they were too much for them to handle without my help. I told them my stuff kept going missing and I could not have another incident like this one. I can't afford to repeat classes. I was trying my hardest to do better in college than I had in high school. So she went low contact with me over that summer. Now I'm in my sophomore year, taking the maximum amount of classes allowed, and my tuition has gone up due to taking upper class levels. I called my mom about the school fees. At first she completely ignored me, and I was starting to get nervous. So I went over to her house to ask her directly. She told me that she thought I had everything figured out since I moved out, and I was an adult who should know that they were doing this, so I should not need her help anymore. I begged her. No, I pleaded her. I told her I would help out with groceries like before, and there was no way I could afford my tuition on my own. She said I have a job, so I should have enough money saved up to take care of myself. She had other plans for the money, you know. I went home and felt so stressed out. I was checking my bank account, checking my shift schedule, and calculating how much money I'd be able to save before tuition was due. It's not nearly enough. Without my mom's help, I'm doomed. I took on a full load of classes thinking I would be secure, so there's no way for me to pick up extra shifts. If that was not bad enough, I found out my uncle is retiring, and mom's planning something big. A cousin of mine told me that she's renting out some place to throw him a huge party, and he's been talking to a car dealership about getting a new vehicle because his old truck broke down, and he sold it for scrap metal. I guess that's where all the money for my tuition is going. I've never felt so lost in my life, and I just have no idea if I'm going to be able to finish this degree at this rate. I don't know what my options are, besides dropping out and working full-time until I can afford the tuition to finish it on my own. I'd rather not do that because I feel like if I leave, I'll become complacent with working and will never want to go back. Or I'll get caught in some endless cycle of making money and then having to spend it all on surviving, so school will end up on the back burner. Are there any other options I can look into that anyone here knows of? Any advice will be greatly appreciated. Update number 1. Hey, I think I finally figured out what I'm going to do. But first, over the weekend, my mom had the retirement party from my uncle that she planned. It was big, extravagant, and had to cost the entirety of the money for school. She rented out some fancy place on the lake, got catering, decorations, and everything. Steve was forced into early retirement because he started losing hearing in his other ear. According to the doctors, he'll be completely deaf in a few years. My uncle said he wanted me to come just because he didn't want any bad blood between us, even though I did accuse him of stealing. I went to enjoy my college money, not to support them. At the end of the whole thing, my mom surprised him with a brand new truck as a thank you for helping her out after her husband left. Like, guys, I understand her wanting to do something nice for my uncle, but a whole party and a truck? If I'm being honest, I feel like she's doing this for clout within the family to spite me. Everyone's been bragging about how great the party was and how it was such a nice thing that she did for Steve. On top of that, Mom's even gone so far as to accuse me of abandoning her, just like my father did. Not to my face, though. She's just been bad-mouthing me to the rest of the family ever since the laptop incident, saying I never wanted Steve around in the first place, and that's why I lied about him stealing my laptop. She's conveniently failing to leave out that the police described the person who stole my laptop to be exactly like my uncle. Whatever. After seeing where my college money went to, I made a trip to financial aid to see if I could get any help with the tuition. They said they could offer some help since my financial and living situation was so dire, but they could cover the cost of everything. The amount of money they're willing to give could be a decent dent in my bills, but it would not be enough. I decided to look into the internship thing. The college has a lot of resources on stuff like that, so I called up one of the companies that offer scholarships to students. But they said that they only did it for people in their senior year, so that's a good option for next year, but doesn't help me now. Which is why I've decided to take out a loan yet again to cover the rest. I know those loans are predatory and the interest rates are absolutely crazy, but I just don't want to give up on my dreams just yet. Yes, I understand I'll probably be paying off these loans for the rest of my life, but I'll just make that sacrifice. I've also decided to go no contact with my mom. I can't forgive her for what she did. She basically tried to sabotage my future. I'm going to graduate with my degree just to spite her. Update number 2. I've been focusing on school lately, so I have not been online much, but some interesting things have happened since my last update. I'm in my senior year now, working at a local company who both pays my tuition and gives me a stipend at the end of every month. If I do well, they'll take me on as a permanent employee once I graduate, so I'm trying my hardest to impress the higher-ups. I'm still in the same place that I was with my roommate who I found out actually owns the apartment. Well, her parents own it, and told her if she wanted extra cash, she would get a roommate. As for what's been going on with my mom, I only hear things through other family members, but I've gotten some interesting updates. Apparently, Mom is not living in the house anymore. She's living with one of my aunts, and I don't know the full story yet. And I probably won't for a while, but I drove by the house and there was a for sale sign out front. Steve's truck was parked there, and I asked my cousin if she knew, and she said her mom and my mom have been very secretive about what happened. All she knows is my mom came there a week ago with a bunch of suitcases and has not left since. I asked her if she's heard from my uncle at all, and she said that he came by and they were downstairs screaming at each other. My cousin is only 12, so of course she's not going to be clear about what's going on. I've debated calling my mom to ask her, but I kind of already have enough to deal with. School and work are stressful enough without the added family drama. Speaking of which, I learned some other interesting things this week. My father, he passed away a month ago. His family's been trying to contact me since then, and the things that they told me have been absolutely heated. Apparently, my dad did not up and leave us. Mom and him got a divorce. Mom got full custody in the settlement and he agreed to pay child support. Also, the mortgage was already paid off by the time he left, so the only thing my mom had to worry about was the bills, because my dad was steadily sending her money to take care of me. Which I guess is the money that she had set aside for my college? Still, I can't believe my mom had me believing that we were poor and struggling the whole time. I was working at 16, and my grades were suffering because of her lies. I contemplated calling my mom just to cuss her out, but I promised myself I'd go no contact with her. The reason my dad's family reached out is because he left some money, so somebody will be in contact about that. I'm not sure how much it is, but whether it's a little or a lot, it's all going to my student loans. Updates number 3. Hey guys, I graduated. I wanted to share this update and just start off with that with some good news because it gets very bizarre from here. My graduation was last week and me and my roommate decided to have a little party, a shindig. A weekend after, a small get-together for a few of our friends and family. Since I'm not talking to my mom, I invited my aunt and my other cousin. There wasn't going to be any alcohol at the party anyways, and up until that time, I still didn't know what was going on with my mom and my uncle. Well, I just knew that the house was still up for sale. Anyways, the party was going super smooth, and everybody was having a good time. I got to meet my roommate's parents, and they told me the person in the one-bedroom apartment upstairs was planning to move, so if I wanted a place to myself, I was welcome to it. And then my mom shows up out of the blue. At first, I just completely ignore her, because, what was she even doing there? I did not invite her, and my roommate knows my relationship with her is very complicated. While I was in the kitchen, she pulled me aside and asked if we could talk. I asked her what she was doing at my party. She apologized for showing up uninvited, but said that she really needs my help. Apparently, my uncle's been stealing from my mom this whole time. At first it was little things here and there, then one day she went into her wallet and her money and cards were gone. Thankfully, she was able to contact the bank and tell them what happened, so whatever charges were made were reversed. But that's not all, though. She signed the house over to him, and he told her that he could get a loan from the Veterans Association to fix up the house and add an extra room even. But the house needed to be in his name to do it, so she stupidly went and just did it. And signed it over to him. You know, the same house that my dad fought long and hard to secure for us. Literally the only thing that he left for us, guys. Well, So now my uncle's selling the house to pay off some debt. Also, he never had a job. She doesn't know where he was getting the money from to help the bills, but apparently he owes some people now and needs some money from the house sale. He didn't even allow her to get dad's stuff out of the attic, and he's probably sold them by now too. She said that she just needed a place to stay until she could figure some things out. She told my aunt that she would only stay with her for a little bit, and my uncle, aunt's husband, is not too fond of my mom. I was angry knowing everything I know now about my dad. He's been gaslighting me my whole life, and I told her that I could not help her and that she should not stop trying to contact me. She quite literally almost ruined my life. She grabbed my arm and begged and pleaded with me to help her. I told her I want nothing to do with her anymore. My reaction may have been a bit harsh, but after everything she did to me, I just felt it was justified. I haven't heard from her since, and hopefully I won't hear from her again. Update number 4. I did not think I'd have a chance to come back here, but my goodness, tell me why Mom showed up to my job. I was in a meeting with my team when my boss pulled me out to talk to me. He said my mother was in the lobby waiting for me. Said he talked her ear off, giving him some sob story about how her daughter doesn't care about her. I told him I'd explain everything later, then went out to give her a piece of my mind. I told her not to ever in her life show up at my job again. She starts telling me my aunt was getting ready to kick her out and she would not have enough money to find a place for herself until she got paid at the end of the month. So I asked her what she did with all the money my father's been sending her, and her eyes went wide. I told her I knew everything, about how she manipulated me into thinking we were poor and suffering, and that Dad abandoned us with nothing. I told her I knew that the money she spent on my uncle was money my dad sent for me. I knew that she could be spiteful, but this was beyond it. This was evil. Imagine making your own kids suffer and give up their childhood for absolutely no good reason. Guys, I was just so angry. I started crying, and the receptionist came out to ask me if everything was okay. I told my mom I did not want her to be a part of my life anymore, and if she needed help, then too bad. I remember her looking defeated as she left, and I had to go back to my boss and explain everything to her, and thank goodness she understood. Could you imagine how horrid it would have been if I would have had a mean boss, or one that hated me? Well, guys, that was 2 weeks ago, and I'm not sure what my mom's doing now. There was a rumor in the family that she was living in the hospital secretly, but I can't confirm that. But in some good news, I managed to cut down my student loans by a lot thanks to the funds I got from my dad. Sucks I didn't really get to have a relationship with him in my adult life because of my mom. I'll never forgive her for that. Guys, I want to thank everybody here for their helpful, kind words of encouragement. I probably would not have gotten through this without your help. Final update. Wow. I didn't really think I would be writing one of these again, but something interesting happened. It's been a year and about a month. Well, once per month I would drive by my childhood home to see if my uncle was still there or if he sold it yet. 6 months ago I noticed his truck. You know, the one that Mom bought him. It wasn't there. I heard from my aunt that he ended up selling it. So last week I drove by, and not only was the for sale sign gone, but a family moved in. It hurts. It did. Seeing a childhood home of mine just gone. Knowing how hard my father worked to secure it, but the home had a lot of painful memories anyways, and at least somebody else was enjoying it. That's not even the most interesting thing that happened. I get a call from a county jail the other day, and it was my uncle, Steve. The conversation started normally, and he asked me how I was doing, how my mom was, etc. Then he starts buttering me up, saying I was always his favorite niece, and he told my mom to be nicer to me, which I doubt was even true. I got annoyed and asked him why he was calling me, and he said he was in jail and needed somebody to put money on his books. He said he knew that I was good for it because I got money from my dad, and that he did not need much, just $100 or so to help with necessities while he was behind bars. I asked him how he landed in jail, because, I was genuinely curious. Well, apparently, guys, he robbed a store on purpose just to go to jail, because it was the only safe place for him. He was in debt to some dangerous people, and, quote, the system was the only place that could protect him. I asked him why he thought I would be the one to help him after he stole from me. Stole from me and stole from Mom, and also sold my childhood home. He said if he did not pay the money back, he would be dead, and if he helped me and my mom out when we were poor and destitute, so I should be more than willing to return the favor. Well, I hung up on him, and I swear to goodness I hope he rots in that prison. As for my mom, I never looked back, and neither did she ever try to reach me again. And honestly speaking, I think it's better this way. Alright, so the comment section of this story, it was interesting. And why I say that is because it was split down the middle. A lot of people were upset with OP, believe it or not, saying, hey, we get it, your mom, she treated you badly, she spent the money, but at the end of the day, she was the one that was scammed by her brother. But what you did, OP, by just turning your back to her, turning your back to your uncle, it was just wrong. But guys, that was only half the comments. The other half were completely arguing with that, saying, are you guys out of your mind? OP does not have to put her life with her mom and her uncle when they treated her so toxically. So I do want to know which side of that you guys are on. Let's talk about it down below in the comment section. And if you guys have a story you want to share of your own, maybe you've been through something similar, consider sharing it down below. I would love to read about it. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate these stories every day, and if you guys want to be a part of these daily stories, consider subscribing, and just thank you for joining me, and I hope you are entertained. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.